Okay, today we're doing something that I really enjoy doing, which is using my favourite rotary art pen. This is a fine nib, you can see fine, and it's just like an old-fashioned fountain pen, and it just comes with cartridges like that. And it's the joy of it is got this lovely flexible nib, and also the ink is water soluble. I use this for all my sketching. I tend to go in with pen and then just throw watercolour at it. So here's an old Venice sketchbook I had, and you can see, so I just drew the lines. So this is it without water being thrown at it, and this is it with water thrown at it. So it gives you that instant tone very easily. It's sort of like magic painting, and the kind of effects you can get with it, I like that. That's the fish market, and you can see you can get very deep shadows by using a lot of ink, but one line will bring up a lot of colour, and then using it with watercolour too. So here I drew it with the pen, not that you can see, and I threw a lot of watercolour at it to get the tones. So you get this nice instant way of adding tone to your paintings and drawings. So today I'm doing Carl Dario, which is this wonderful creepy palazzo on the Grand Canal, just near San Salute. And you can see it's a beautiful building, but it's got this terrible curse on it where most of the owners have either gone bankrupt or committed suicide. And I think I counted up about 6 suicides, 7 bankruptcies, drug deaths, from the time it was built in the 15th century up until 2000s. Apparently Woody Allen was going to buy it, but he heard about the curse and then decided not to. So what I'm going to do first is just do my drawing in pencil, and unlike me, I have got a ruler out just to help me understand the architecture of the place. You can see it's just wonderfully typically Venetian with these lovely coloured marbles and these roundels, much praised by Ruskin. And here we got the Venetian chimneys as well. And you can see it is actually, I think it actually leans, but this picture shows it just sort of tapering. So what I'm going to do is sketch with a pencil, and then I'm going to go over with ink. So I've drawn a sort of frame. What I'm using is a smooth-ish watercolour paper. It's not hot pressed. I think it's called cold pressed, and it's not rough. So I'm just going to go in here and try and place my villa. I will use my pencil a bit harder actually, so you can see what I'm doing. We'll use a more of a B pencil. So that's where the steps will be. And I want to try and fit it all in, that's the thing. So I want a bit of canal going on here. So we have one layer here, and you can see I'm being reasonably free. And then, so that's the tallest layer. Gosh, it's not going to fit on again. And then we come up to here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and I want to keep the chimneys in. So I'm going to have to bring it down a bit. So if I make that like that, and then that like that, and then that like that. So the advantage of doing this, of course, you can rub out your pencil. So if I call that the roof, and then I can actually fit my chimneys in, which is all there. And then I think I will actually use a ruler. I wouldn't normally use a ruler, but this is architecture after all. So I'm going to go in and try and get this idea of, it just seems to be tapering, but I do remember actually looking at it, it sort of leans. As I say, built in the 15th century, so it's getting a bit old, and now I'm going to look at the architectural detail. So we have kind of 4 windows, and this is a good way of doing architecture. So you're looking at the 4 windows, so I've got 4 windows here, and this nice panel comes down here, and then we have 1 window sort of here-ish. And so I want to catch those 4 windows. So if I try and think about it, so here only the 1, and we'll call that the decorative piano nubile. So this is a window, that is a window, and that is a window, and that's sort of working. So I'm going to go in and add these 4 windows. And the advantage of doing this in pencil, of course, you can really look at the pattern of what's going on, and then when you do the pen, hopefully it'll all come together. Ho ho. So let's start with the bottom floor, and call that sort of this bit, and then I particularly want to get that doorway in, which is a slightly wider. It should be in the centre. What have I done? I've done something wrong already. So this is the doorway, and again I'm being quite free, and we've got some steps going on here, and this nice decorative bit. So this is the steps going down to the canal, and hopefully I'm going to bring it all together when I do the pen work. So that sort of goes like that, and then we have a window in the halfway here, and a window here. So again, let's do a window, and we've got a roundel, and a roundel, and a roundel, and a roundel. And here we have another window. So you have to sort of start like this quite free, otherwise you'll be going mad with all the architectural detail. And it says here, I can't remember what it says, something about the genius of Dario, and the original owner. Oh, that's too wide, isn't it? So that needs to come over here, and that window needs to be there. The genius of Dario, you can see Johannes Dario there, was the reason why he was cursed. So he built it, he then went bankrupt and committed suicide, and then his wife committed suicide, and then his son was assassinated, and so it went on. It was quiet for about 200 years, and then something else frightful happened. Another merchant, diamond merchant, bought it and then went bankrupt really, really quickly, and committed suicide. And then, oh, that's right, okay, that's okay. No, I've gone wrong. What have I done? So I need to come out a bit here, I think. Put that, oh no, that's right. So this is here. And I have gone wrong already. But luckily I've got a big piece of paper, so hopefully I can bring it all back. I will get a rubber. There we go. So we've got a window here. It's quite tall actually, that window. And then we've got our roundels here, and then I suppose this is there, this is here, and actually these are a bit further that way. So we've got a big old roundel just here, and then we've got this decorative marble, and then we've got that bit, and roof, so it has got bigger. My drawings always get bigger, but as I say, luckily I've got this wiggle room with a bigger bit of paper, so that's there. And then we've got this, and this is actually there. Whoa, I've gone so wrong already. So this is sort of there, and then we've got a slightly shorter one up here, and then I will have to redo the roof, which I suppose the centre is actually it's over here, isn't it? So this is the advantage of doing it quite quickly and scribbly with pencil. So we've got this here, and the advantage of doing this with pencil and then pen is that we can actually rub out all our pencil, and that works quite well. And we've got one here. Ooh. This arch here, and oh, I think I might have to expand it sideways again, and that goes there, this goes here, this goes here, and I think I might have to expand it sideways. Yeah, it's going to end up taller, but never mind, let's just crack on. I'm just going to actually rule that line. So, and then we have the balcony here. We've got line here. Oop, no more roundels. So a roundel here, one here. So we've got two here, and then another big beautiful thing here. And my balcony, covering up the roundels. Oh, there's one here. And the balcony's there, and again these very tall windows. Yep, it's expanded. Never mind. There we go. It's just my little foible. It always happens. So now I have no room for the top windows, so I better rub out a bit of the roof. And what I'm going to do is actually do it with pen and then apply a wash to it. And so we've got roundels here. So we've got one here. So that is taller. This, ooh, that's an interesting roundel. There we go. And then the roof is up there. It's just got bigger and bigger and bigger, hasn't it? And then these, roundel, 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 arch, arch. Might have helped if they were more even. Arch. And I think what I'm going to have to do is bring this in. It's got stretched out. And that's right. So I'll bring that in like that. So I need the roof and the lovely chimneys for that roof, and the chimneys, which are these are very old-fashioned chimneys, typical of Venice, I suppose, to take the smoke away from the general populace. And then this is out, oh god, this is out here, and up here again a chimney, and over there that you can sort of see. So what I'm going to do is, rather than bore you to death with watching me just pencil this in and correct things, I'm going to actually apply the pen and do it sort of in fast motion. So we'll get onto that, and then I can show you how the pen reacts to watercolour washes. So, see you in a minute. Okay, so I've drawn it up, still very scribbly pencil, as you can see, with lots of mistakes, but never mind. And I'm now just going to go in with my pen. So I know that this will dissolve in watercolour. So let me get going, and then I'm going to speed it up. So you don't have to watch this rather tedious process. But okay, time for the Benny Hill music. So I have inked this all up, and you can see it's quite scruffy, and actually when you add water to these areas here, the sort of pen marks disappear. And I've rubbed out all the pencil, and now I'm going to throw some watercolour at it. So I've got a sort of limited palette here. Again, I'm using tube watercolours. One colour that I really like actually is sepia. I don't know if you can see that. It's based on squid ink, and you can see how dark and gloomy it can get, so that's ideal for the window frames. In fact, maybe I'll start with that. So you can see here I've actually put in some pen strokes to add some ink to the proceedings, and I can just add a bit of the watercolour. Grab some kitchen towel, and I'm just going to paint that window frame. There we go. Oops, wiggle around a bit, and I'm just going to actually just use water, kitchen towel, and you can see the ink spreads, and it really is quite dark. The more you put on, the darker it gets. So I can demonstrate that actually down here. So here, this is this rather dark and gloomy doorway, and I can just add water to that, and you can see there's a lot of ink has come up. And the interesting thing about this ink, once you have wet it, it won't come up again. So I always recommend this pen to all my sketching groups, and it's just a question of learning how to use it, because it will mess up light and bright areas. And I might just grab a little bit of sepia and put that in there to darken it down again, but you can see there's a lot of ink has come up there. But I am going to combine watercolour and ink at this stage, so I'm going to crack on with those windows with a little bit of sepia. We have another palette on the go. Yeah, and actually I'm going to dilute it down a bit of kitchen towel, and I'm just going to paint that window. And I can, oops, no, I want that to be sepia, don't I? I want the brown of the windows to be sepia. Oops. And while I'm there, I will do that one. And just add water to that. You can see how dark the ink makes it. And again, maybe I'll use this as a palette. Ha ha ha. And again here, oops, that's a bit too much. And just use a bit of kitchen towel, take off some excess paint, and just come down here for the window frame. And again, a bit more sepia. Oops. Come up there, and you can see it's actually making it really quite dark. Oops, that's too light. And I just need to grab myself some kitchen towel. Central tool of all watercolourists. And down here. And then I might go into some lighter areas just to show you how this works. So I've got my lovely chimneys, which are this lovely kind of Venetian-y red ochre colour. Ooh, let's try that. So I always have a test sheet of paper, so that's a bit too dark. So I'm just going to add more water to that, maybe a bit more yellow ochre. Getting there, a bit more water. Oops, you can see got a blot going on there, but that all adds to the fun. Okay, so let's do our chimney pot. So I put a little bit of pen in there to be the shading, and I'm just going to go down and add that to be the shading, and you can see it's actually more or less turned back into ink now. But if I actually use this lighter wash here, you can see it's picking up some of the ink on the edge. So you have to kind of embrace this pen, but I do highly recommend it. Probably every student of mine has one, because it is so nice to sketch with. Basically, it gives you a lot of bang for your buck. It's about £20 off Amazon. Good Christmas present for everybody. There we go. So lovely chimneys. Okay, I'm probably going to work downwards from now on, and I am going to mix up a roof colour. So this is, it's actually red iron oxide, and it's sort of like burnt sienna, but more so. So I'm just going to go in here, woo, and put my roof in, and you can see I did put a few marks in to indicate tiles, but I'm not going to sweat the detail because life is too short. I should use a bigger brush. So this lovely terracotta colour. A bit more going on there. You can see the ink sort of spreads out. I'm just going to add water here just to vary the colour a bit. And then down here, where I put my little tiny bits, we're getting a bit of shadow. Right, time to switch to a slightly bigger brush, I think. Then I've got these lovely roundels there. Having said that, I might just do something here. Getting that idea of shadow, and then along here, ooh, getting spready outy lines, which is quite nice. Yeah. Ooh. And because of the curse, this place really appeals to my inner goth. Bigger brush. So I'm now going to tackle some of the lovely marble panels. So this is yellow ochre, and I will find that the ink will spread out, so I'm trying not to touch it too much, but you can use it to good advantage. Might put a few other bits and bobs in there. And as I say, with watercolour you can do a lot with watercolour while it's still wet, and you can see it's just picking up the ink just there. But I'm going back to my smaller brush. Just going to add some water there to indicate the shadows. So here and here and around here and here. So there's some shadows going on in those roundels. And then the roundels. Let's use that oxide, I think, because they're all different colours of marble as seen in St Mark's, and there's even a little bit of green sort of one there. Come up rather dark, and another brown one over there. That. And you can always blot things away. When the ink has run away with you, it's quite useful to just blot it away, and then it kind of is not so dark. Let's do those roundels, shall we? And then I want some shadows under here. Just spread that out a bit, just to indicate shadows, and then we've got that lovely colour again here. It's a bit too dark, but you can see, I suppose you have to get used to how the pen works and not mind when it spreads around. You can get some really interesting effects once you've done a pen drawing and then spray it. That does all sorts of wonderful things. But that needs to be a bit lighter, I think. A bit too much. Around here, oops, my blot's got out of control, but never mind. And then we've got sort of dark here, dark here, dark here, dark here. And then the colour of the roundels. Maybe a teeny bit of red. There we go, little roundels. So as I'm here, let's fill them all in. And they do vary a bit. So I can just show you, in fact, what you can do. So I could actually just put a bit of shadow in there, and then come back to it in yellow ochre. So that might work. Ooh, forgotten some roundels. Up here, and then we've got this nice coloured marble just here. Oops. No, I need more colour in that. That's just ended up being ink. Never mind. Ugh. And here's another one. Getting around there like that. what's happening here? Ooh, there's a bit of shadow there. So in fact, I can just add a bit of shadow here and you can get some nice effects. That's a nice effect. Bit of dry brush, bit of stuff happening. I can put these in now. Now it's dry. Oops. There we are. And what I'm going to do here, because the windows, although lit, also reflecting the sun and the light, I'm just going to go over with a bit of water. You can see, easy as pie, to create that kind of idea of the shadow on the windows. And let's do this one. And then a bit more yellow ochre. Go in here. Ah, too much, and again just taking a bit off with kitchen towel. Well, that's a better colour, isn't it? That's quite intense. I like that. Okay. There. And I went a bit wrong here, but hopefully no one will notice. Okay, that's the first story done. I think I might crack on with that colour because that came out quite nicely with a slightly bigger brush. Where's my good brush? Right, so a slightly bigger brush. And I'm going to crack on here. In fact, that goes around there. But there's that nice white stone just there framing the window. And then I think I want a bit more interest with some other things going on. And I'm just going to spread that water around. And you can see where it's picking up some of the ink from the brush strokes. And then that all goes over there, and that over there, and that over there. Let's have a bit more stuff happening there. And again, I can just create a shadow just using the ink. There's a bit going on there. And back to a slightly smaller brush. And I can go in here and create that shadows of the thing going on there. And then put in my little roundels, I suppose. A bit of that, a bit of this. What colour's that? Oh, that's that. Nice quinacridone yellow. So here we go. Let's have some roundels. A bit redder. Woo! There we go. And something going on there. And I can add a little bit more interest to some of these. A bit of shadow. Ooh, perhaps I should wait for that one to dry. Oops. Oh, that's better. So just using the ink to create a little bit of shadow. Oh, maybe too much. Ink. Oh, I like it where it's run there. I think I should be freer. Okay, back to the sepia for these windows. So I'm just going to pretty much go over the whole thing with some sepia. Yeah, a bit more sepia on sepia because it's picked up the ink and has gone a bit grey. And there's a bit of shadow here actually. I wonder if that would work. So if I do it all at once. Ooh, that's kind of nice. And again, sepia up here. A bit more sepia here. Then just go over the whole thing. Maybe I should have left it. And again, some sepia. Oops. A little bit more sepia. Whoa, that's a lot of sepia. Let's pop it on there while I'm still got it on my brush. But I will drag it down to be the window frames. Eek, eek, eek. And again here. Eek, eek. And I will wait for that to dry a bit before I drag around the paint. And again, let's go over here. Yep. Sepia is quite granular, so I've got a great big blob of it there. I assume they don't make it out of squid ink anymore, but who knows, it might be the cheapest option. And here we go with that one. And then, more roundels. So, oops. And one here, they do vary in colour. And there's a little bit more of the nice yellow. No, there isn't. Oh yes, there is. I might wait for that to dry. And then again here, I can create shadow just by water. And then a bit of yellow ochre, walking around here. Oops, and here. There's a bit of that in there, you know, because it's all this lovely marble you can find in St Mark's, all the different colours. And here we go. Oops, that's a bit pale. That's a bit of the wrong colour, but I'll keep going. See, it's coming together, and it's quite a nice quick way of getting tone into a painting. Now we've got this pesky balcony here, but what I'm going to do first, in fact, is put the shadow in. So I've got this area here. You can see how dark that is. So that is just adding more pen strokes, and then you get more shadow. I will soften that up with a bit of yellow ochre, maybe. And I might blot it a bit. Ooh, well, there we go. That's lightened it. I think I need some new kitchen towel. So then we have the balcony to deal with. I wasn't going to worry about too much about the detail, but I do want it to be there. So again here, and sort of here, yeah. And then it's got here, and I'm not going to worry about the flagpole. And so this is the basic pattern of it, and then I'm going to twiddle around a bit. Maybe a bit of sepia and the red oxide. So some twiddly bits. Ooh, twiddle, twiddle, twiddle. That's a bit freer than I'd like it to be, but get the idea. And then we've got some twiddly bits going on here, and here, and here. Not very pleased with that, but it saves me worrying about doing whole bunches of detail, which will drive me insane. So I'm just going over here just to bring that ink up. It's nice, isn't it? And then more roundels. So let's just keep going. So, ooh, it's a bit dark. I might have a sort of paler one over here. Maybe block that one. So they do vary a bit. That one and that one. And then we're coming down to the grand piano nubile. So let's have a little bit of Payne's Grey knocking around, I think. But back to the sepia, and there's a bit dark. I'm just going to try and get that to be a bit more sepia-like. See the shadows there. Lighten that a bit. And have a bit more sepia. And again here. Oops. And down here. Oops. I think repetition is maybe a bit haphazard now, but let's just have a bit more sepia going on there, and I will come back and add just water just to bring up the shadows. So sepia here, definitely. Not so much down there, but let's not worry about it. And then some Payne's grey, I think I want that in there. So Payne's grey is quite a nice companion to this ink colour. It's not quite the same, and this ink has sort of like Quink, but not quite. I think it does fade in light, which is kind of annoying of it, but not as bad as Quink does. And a bit more sepia going on there. And the ink will go down to its constituent parts a bit if you get it really wet on watercolour paper. Yeah, oh gosh, I've got this very elaborate roundel. Went a bit wonky. Right, oh, let's have some more roundels. Yeah, yeah, whoops, yeah, 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 and here. And then I've got quite a nice one in here, and I can use the ink to be the shadow. Let's cast on it. And then back to the yellow ochre. So let's have some yellow ochre. Knocking around, bigger brush, because I've got quite a large area to cover. Plonk that in. And I want it to be different colours in different places. So I'm just adding water to the stuff I put on there. And you can see it's picking up the edge of the ink. Let's have a few more interesting bits. Okay, back to me roundels, which are pretty much all the sienna colour. Oops, that's a lot of water on that one. And again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And then let's try and use the ink to bring up some shadow, and then here. Bit of shadow going on there. Now it looks really peculiar, but never mind. And again, sepia in here to be the window frame. And over here as well. So it is, this ink is sort of like messing around with watercolour, which is no bad thing. But it will actually mess up the nice colours you've got in your watercolour. So you have to be aware of that and not mind. So again, I'm just coming along here, creating some shadow, and I will come along here, doing the same thing. And this is without watercolour. And then there's some more going on here too. Oops. Crazy now. I think I've gone crazy. And then I have these roundels to deal with, so let's get some colour going on. Yeah. Okay. Well, with a little fancy one there, but oops. Ooh, roundel and roundel. And now to get the yellow ochre out again. You can see it's picking up the ink a bit, which is no bad thing. And again, that mark there is to make the ink be the shadow, right down here. Oops, ooh, that's nice. A lot of water going on there. I'm going to leave it. Oops. Maybe have some more water going on. There we go. And then, ooh, more yellow ochre required. Oops. Let's just use the water. And that's all white there. So here I can just use this mark here to create the idea of shadow there. Realize I haven't put a mark there. Let's put a mark there to be this kind of cornice. And again here. And then we've got some twiddly bits going on here, and twiddly bits which I forgot to put in there, but never mind. It's dark. And now we're coming down to the bottom, which is more, this is the kind of white. I haven't put the lettering in because I know it will spread and it will annoy me. So I'm just going, oops, ooh, got some nice blots. Just going to use water here. You can see it's bringing up quite a lot of ink. And maybe a teeny bit of Payne's grey to indicate where the deeper shadows are. And maybe that would help if it was straight. You can see Payne's grey is actually quite blue, and this ink has gone, I suppose I added some sepia to that one, didn't I? And then again, just putting on water, and you can see it's pretty much taken away all the pen strokes and has given me this nice deep tone, but I want to modulate that a bit with some Payne's grey to indicate where the shadow is here. And then I'm going to add a bit more Payne's grey to this shadow here. So at this point, so the ink is down and it will stay down, it won't dissolve again. But I can use this as a like watercolour. I mean, basically you're painting like watercolour, and that ink is down. You can see it's not moving at all. Okay, so then we've got this rather pale stone, but I could do the roundels when I'm in the mood. So no, it's not big enough, but never mind. Yeah, the roundel, 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 roundel. And then perhaps create some shadows here just with water. Oops, ooh, that's nice. The more water you use, the better it is. Oh, there we go. A bit of shadow under that roundel. And over here too. Shadow under there. And shadow over here. And you can see I'm just using water. And then we've got some decorative bits here. And some more decorative bits over here. And sometimes you don't put enough ink on. And then I've got all sorts of interesting things happening in here. So again, I'm just using water. And I might go for a bigger brush to get something happening here. So I'm going to pick up sort of wash. Ooh, that's nice. See where the ink has spread a lot. Get down there. Ooh. And ooh, there's all sorts of things happening in here. Create a little bit of texture, and then just warm up some areas within here with a bit of light yellow ochre wash. There we go. And now one of the bits I always like about Venice is the lovely gloomy sort of seaweed that grows at the bottom. And that's one of my favourite bits. I might just do that. No, it's in shadow. And then I can actually drag water over these areas, and it should add some tone to the proceedings. And again here, ooh. And here. Let's have a bit of Payne's grey in there. Ooh, it's a different colour, never mind. And here. So it's as easy as pie, just dragging water through the pen. So now back to my lovely gloomy seaweed. So I've got this colour here, which is perylene green. As you can see, it's really nice and dark, and I've got a bit of green gold, which is nice and bright. So let's start with a bit of green gold, indicating, ooh, it's probably entirely too much, indicating some seaweed. And then I'm going to take that into perylene green. The colours of Venice seaweed, my favourite bit. And I did, in fact, everybody says Venetian, the canals smell. Well, I've never found that the case, except in the absolute height of summer. That I was sketching early one morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and a seagull in this Pack Street Canal just came down and caught a crab, thus proving the canals are alive. So I'm just adding a bit of kind of canal to the proceedings. Ooh, look at that, lovely, 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 lovely. And perhaps I should have had a bit more reflection, but never mind. Oh, I want some nice seaweed on these steps. Yeah. And down here, whoops. And then, ooh. So there we go, a tiny bit of Venice. And one day we'll get to go back there, I hope. I just want to show you one more thing that this pen's really useful for, although I wouldn't necessarily do this on this painting, but what you can do, you can take the line away from what you've drawn. So just to give this more impact, I'm just dragging water down that line. Can you see? So it's taking the ink away. Maybe have a bit of Payne's grey going on as well from your drawing. So you can use it to actually define light as well, which I like. And then I'm going to do the same for over here. So I'm just taking water with a big brush, can you see, and it's pulling the ink away from the drawing. There we go. And again, a bit more Payne's grey going on here. Ooh, maybe that's a bit too much. That is a bit too much. So I'll just add more water and hope it will go away. In fact, make it go away even better. So I think I will stop now. Oh, I've missed a roundel. Mr. Roundel over here. Okay, now I don't like that bit, so I'm just going to just add water, and so it's not quite so stark. Ooh, that's nice. That's not entirely what I meant to happen, but you can see what I mean about the line will define light as well. Ooh, look at that. Yum. Ooh, smoke. There we go. Oh, that's better. less dark anyway. So there we are, a tiny bit of Venice with the lovely Rotring art pen. Do get yourself one for Christmas and start messing around with it. You can just do drawing. The only thing I'd say is don't be too heavy with the ink. You'll be surprised how much ink will come up when you add water. Okay, so next week, I'll see you next week for a bit of portrait.